So we've been going over Erikson's theory of psychosocial development, and we've gotten to the age of 40. And we know that the last one that we went over was intimacy versus isolation, and we talked about, what is needed for a healthy relationship, things that lead to divorce, and then I gave you a little video, little discussion about picking it, being really selective and picking the career that's good for you. So now the next stage, once you are 40 to 60, okay, so this would be 40 to 60, this is the time period of your life where you've probably established yourself in some way. You probably have a house, you probably have a family, you've probably started a career. You've done something by the age of 40 probably. And so now your question is, okay, I accomplished everything, but what's it all for? And so now you start to say, I want to make a difference in this world. And so what generativity means is it means I'm going to give back to future generations. What stagnation means is that you're just taking up space. You feel like your life has no meaning. And so around the age of 40, it starts to become, the focus isn't so much building. The focus is more giving back, making a difference. And so you can give back or make a difference by, supporting your own children, becoming dominant in the community, establishing nonprofits, doing things to help others. It's not so much building up you anymore, it's more giving back. So now the next stage would be integrity versus despair. And I hope it was still kind of fresh in your minds because I always waver back and forth. Should I put it after intimacy and isolation, or should I put it on integrity versus despair? And so once you hit 60, but I really think that this should go a little bit higher than 60. I think it should be more around 70, but at the time when he wrote it, it was around 60 until death. This is when your body is starting to break down, and that's why I said I think we're healthier now, and so I don't I don't think 60 is the age where this should be anymore because my parents are in their 60s, and some colleagues in my office are in their 60s, and they still seem totally vibrant, totally capable of doing anything. So because this comes in when your body's starting to fail, your health is slowing down, and there's things that you can't do anymore. And once you see, I'm not able to do certain things anymore, you kind of have to look at your life and say, okay, did I live my life with integrity? Did I live my life the way I wanted to? Or do you look back and wish you had done this and wish you had done that? And do you look back with despair? And so I think it's very important that we keep death in our mind. Every now and then just think about death, that it's possible at any moment, and think about that, we're going to die someday, and really evaluate our lives according to our deaths. Are we able to look back and say, I lived my life the way I wanted to? In Fight Club, it was the ability to let that which does not matter truly slide. So now what I'd like to take you to is kind of the stages of death and dying. Now where this is coming from is from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who sat with over 3,000 people on their deathbeds, and she just watched them go through the process. So I started this whole segment with prenatal development, and we followed the embryo as it developed. And now we've gone all through life, and we've touched on certain areas more than others. But now we're to the death. And so now the end is here, and I'd like to show you the stages of death and dying. So the first stage is denial. I think a lot of us are in denial about our death. And when somebody says, oh, you have an incurable illness, the first response is, no, this is not right. This is all a dream. I'm going to wake up and it's going to be fine. So denial is like refusing to accept reality. And it may take a while to get out of that. However, if the person's gone to many different doctors and gets the same exact response again and again, then the person probably goes into anger. It's like, gosh, I was a good person. This shouldn't be happening to me. Why is this all happening to me? This is so unfair. I hate this. And if we would spend more money on medical care than something else, then this would be cured. And why aren't these cured? And they may turn their anger on you. They may say, you know what, if you would have treated me better in life, then I wouldn't have got this cancer, and this is your fault, and everybody makes me sick, and I just so angry. So the anger is, you don't want to take it on you. You want to understand that this is a process. A process is anger at loss. The next stage is bargaining, and bargaining is known as the silent stage. It's a very quick stage. So sometimes they say it out loud and sometimes they don't. What bargaining is this is where they may turn to God, or they may turn to different religions, or they may turn to different kind of weird cures, something like that. And so they start to try to bargain, and they say, God, if you would take this illness away from me, then I promise you I'm going to donate all my money to setting up a charity. Or God, if you just let me have 2 more months, then I am going to repair every relationship that I have messed up. And bargains. So sometimes they say it out loud, and sometimes they keep it to themselves. It's a quick stage. Eventually, as the death starts to settle in and their bodies become weaker and weaker, then they'll probably go into depression. And this is the time period where I have the most advice to give on dealing with somebody who's dying. Is the thing that you can do for a dying person is to just be there with them. There's nothing that you can say to make this pain go away. So I think the best thing to say is, you know what, I cannot imagine what you're going through. I'm not going to even attempt to imagine what you're going through. But I'm just going to sit here with you. I just want to be with you. And if you want to talk, you can talk. If you don't want to talk, you don't talk. If you want me to just talk, I can. And so when you think about it, they're transitioning to the unknown, which is very scary. It's very painful. And just to have someone there who doesn't hide their emotions from them, doesn't tell them to hide their emotion, just be there with the person. That's so important. Now, once they go through the pain of depression, some people get to a level of acceptance. And acceptance is something that you need to understand, is they're not going to be joyful about death probably. They may say, oh yes, I'm happy to go meet my father or something like that. Okay, that's fine. But acceptance, a lot of times what you see with that is that they no longer want to see you. They don't return your calls so quickly. They don't come over as much. And when you do come over, they're kind of withdrawn. So what's happened is they've accepted death. And now what they want is they want you to go on with their life. And they just won't. And that's very hard for some people. But that's what acceptance is. Now, what I need you to know is that some people go into anger, and then they hit depression, and then they go back to anger, and then they go into denial. And so not everybody goes through this sequence the same way. But this is a general pattern that she saw. And some people never get to acceptance. Some people stay in denial. Now, another thing that I'd like you to know about this is this could also be the stages of grief and loss. So I know some of you have already lost people very close to you, and I think you can recognize that you probably went through the same pattern of, no, this is not happening, this is all a bad dream, they're not really gone. And then maybe anger at God. Why did you take her? Why did you take him? This is not fair. They were a great person. They were too young. No, this should not happen. And you're mad, and very angry and lashing out. And then maybe you go into bargaining where you say, just give me a sign. Just show me something. Can they come to me in a dream? Just let me have one more word with them. Come talk to me in some way. Show me that they're all right. And then eventually go into depression. And then the sadness of the loss. And that's when people need the most talking and support. And then acceptance is, okay. And don't ever let somebody tell you how long it should take, because everybody's different. And if it takes years to get over the loss, then it takes years. If you get through it fast, then you get through it fast. Now, I think also just one more thing about this theory is this is also for like divorce and breakups. So those of you who have never lost anybody to death, maybe you could recognize it in breakups as like maybe your relationship has come to an end and you're not quite ready for it to come to the end. And so maybe you say, oh no, it's not really over, this is not really happening. And then you get mad. Why is this happening? I'm so angry. And then you bargain and you say, oh, maybe if I just call them up and tell them that we just need to do this, do this, and we can work it out, maybe we'll have a second chance. And then go into sadness. oh no, it's really over, and then maybe acceptance of, okay, it's time for me to move on. So, I know that this is probably a painful ending to this segment, so I made you like a little something to think about to end the segment.
You said I was in my early 40s with a lot of life before me, and a moment came that stopped me on a dime. I spent most of the next days looking at the x-rays, talking about the options and talking about sweet time. I asked him when it sank in that this might really be the real end. How's it hit you when you get that kind of news? Man, what you do? And he said, I went skydiving, I went Rocky Mountain climbing, I went 2.7 seconds on a bull named Blue Manchu, and I loved deeper, and I spoke sweeter, and I gave forgiveness I've been denying. And he said, someday I hope you get the chance to live like you were dying. He said I was finally the husband. Most of the time I wasn't, and I became a friend would like to have. And all of a sudden going fishing wasn't such an imposition, and I went 3 times